this is Paul Zeg. It is the middle of June 2026 and I'm headed north today from my home in Connecticut. This trip will explore the coast of Maine, Campobello Island in New Brunswick, Canada, and the western coast of Nova Scotia. The weather promises to be excellent for most of the trip. Solo motorcycling to me is a way to refresh my spirit. I love the open road and the freedom it brings. I go where I want to go, when I want to go there. I can focus on the journey and live in the moment. Going to new places is an excuse to climb aboard my 2020 V-Strom 650 so that both the journey and the destination can be enjoyed. I hope you join me over these next few episodes as I explore the beautiful coastlines of Maine, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia.
Back roads of Connecticut. Always a beautiful ride. Canton, Connecticut. And northeast. Pretty windy today, but the trees and bushes and buildings are giving me a fair amount of protection, so it's a delightful ride. The one new piece of kit that I bought over the winter was a helmet. My Rye helmet was 18 years old, which is way past the due date recommended for using a helmet, which is normally I think 5 to 7 years. So I decided to get another one and would have bought another Arai because I've owned a couple of them in the past, which I really enjoyed. But I was looking for a modular helmet this time to flip up. So I ended up with a Schubert German-made helmet. Feels a lot like the Arai. The helmet, even though it's modular, I think is about as quiet as my previous Arai. So modular helmets, based on the research I did, tend to be a little bit noisier than a full-face helmet given the additional seams for the bar to flip up. But this one so far has been, I think, relatively quiet. It's very subjective, of course. Farmlands of Connecticut. Saying goodbye to Connecticut. Into Massachusetts. I just entered Rutland, Massachusetts. The sign said Geographic Center of Massachusetts. 29 miles to go, and I'm running low on fuel. I'm heading into Westminster. Pretty area. Willard Brook State Forest. Just about 10 minutes before 5. It's a fairly small campground back here, which I did reserve a site. Massachusetts is relatively expensive for out-of-state visitors. Camping ahead. Well, I don't think it's very crowded. Yeah, there's a few people. There's 20. Good morning. It's day number 2. It's a Tuesday. Headed up to Maine today. All packed up. Pretty quiet night. Perfectly clear skies this morning and the winds have calmed down. So I'm looking forward to the ride. It's going to take me 4 or 5 hours. I'm going to try to stay off the interstate. I think I could cut it down to about 3.5 if I took the highway, but I'm not going to do that if I can. This campground was actually pretty empty last night. I was surprised. I think schools are letting out or have let out in most of the New England area. So I was expecting families to be flooding the parks, but this one was not one of them. There's a pretty little pond. Cool this morning too. What is it right now? 61 degrees. It's a little after 8 o'clock. Kind of took my time getting going this morning, even though I was up at 6. I am headed north on Route 13, and after about a 15-minute ride from the campground, I'm entering the state of New Hampshire. I'm going to cut across the southeastern corner of New Hampshire over into Maine and work my way up the coast there. Another glorious day of riding. I am on the coast, Route 4 headed north, crossing into the great state of Maine. Piscataqua River Bridge. Town of Algonquin, Maine. Route 1 headed north. These towns up here in Maine come alive in the summertime. Nice little tourist town. This is Coastal Route 1. Heading into Bath. City of ships. The old Navy ships here. Maintain them. Goes back a long time. I just entered the town of Thomaston, which is where I'm going to stop. 1605. The reason I'm stopping here is at the home of Henry Knox. It's located here. Henry Knox is famous from the American Revolution. Not so well known though to modern Americans, but he played a critical role, especially in expunging the British from Boston. So he lived down in Boston, but came up here, and they have a historic home here along with a museum that I plan to visit before I go to my campsite for the evening. Knox Museum. There's a tour at 2:15. All right. Back there is the house. Quite the mansion.
While the Henry Knox Mansion is only a faithful recreation of his residence, the home is filled with actual artifacts, including Henry Knox's writing desk, a pair of 1750 pistols he carried, a lock of hair that apparently were commonly given as gifts to friends during this time period. This particular lock is from George Washington. Henry's writing armchair, a letter from George Washington when Henry served as President Washington's Secretary of War, a bell from Paul Revere, and finally, the bed where Henry Knox likely died at the age of 56.
Rockland, Maine. Trying to find a place to eat dinner. Heading north on 1 still, heading towards Camden. And then just a couple miles north of the town is the state park, where I have to do walk-in, Camden Hills State Park. Maine does not allow same-day reservations, which is kind of a weird situation, but there's a few states I've run into that have that. I'm not quite sure why. But I was told there were plenty of sites. I refilled my hydration pack with water, so I had some water at camp tonight since it's not potable there, assuming that I can stay. But I have my sights right now on an ice cream place, ice cream cone after dinner in Camden. Camden, 1769. Camden Hills State Park. Alright, I do have a campsite, but first I am taking a 1.5 mile road up a mountain called Mount Battie. Apparently it has good views at the summit.
Mount Desert Island way out there. The two mountains are. And the national park in Maine. I'm gonna go past that tomorrow. I've been there already. As I head my way up to Campobello in Canada, which is right across the US-Canadian border. Good morning. It's day number 3. It's Wednesday morning. I'm headed up to Campobello, New Brunswick in Canada. I already tore my tent down. Weather's supposed to be good today and then not so good tomorrow. Nice quiet camp here in Maine. Early morning sun. I think the sun was up at 4:30 this morning. So I rolled over and went back to sleep for a little bit, but the birds are singing and it's time to get moving. I did not buy breakfast yesterday. I'm talking quietly since there's some campers around. So I'm going to stop first at a supermarket to try to grab some breakfast before I head up to the Canadian border. Working my way about 45 minutes to a grocery store. 141 miles to Campobello. There's a provincial park. I was going to make a reservation, but it was so empty that I figured, well, give myself options today in case I decided to change my mind about where I was going. So I'll probably just do walk in or make a reservation once I get up across the Canadian border. On to Campobello. I believe today is going to be mostly riding this Route 1 along the Maine coast north. So looking at this Campobello National Historic Park, which is on the Canadian side of the border. It's where President FDR had his summer home. Searsport, Maine. A town nestled here on the water. I'm going to pass within a couple miles of Acadia National Park. So it'd be silly for me to pass it on by without going in, even though I've been there several times before. That's going to be my next stop as I head my way up to Campobello is Acadia National Park. I'll spend an hour or so there riding around. That is the bridge I'm going to be taking here to get over that way. I am still on Route 1 and this is Verona Island that bridge took me onto. And here's the other bridge taking me into Bucksport. So up here I'm going to take off of Route 1 onto Route 3. Bar Harbor. Delightful seaside town. Acadia National Park. Park Loop Road. Pretty park indeed. This is the Loop Road at the National Park. I'm not going to try to go up Cadillac Mountain today. Can't beat the national parks for riding. Isn't that pretty? The GPS directed me off of Route 1 along the coast, so I'm actually inland now a little bit, heading northeast, perhaps a little bit shorter because it's eventually, this Route 182 that I'm on right now will eventually meet up again with Route 1, it looks like on the map. Not much traffic and no towns to speak of.
I merge back onto Route 1, headed north. Still 50 miles to go, about an hour's worth of riding. Just entered Lubbock, Maine, L-U-B-E-C. And the sign, which I went flying by a little bit too fast, said I think it's the easternmost town in the United States. So that would be a first for me. I've never been to Lubbock before. And right across the border, I believe, is Campobello, showing a distance of 7.9 miles to the park, crossing into Canada. Atlantic time zone, New Brunswick. So I lost an hour. Was my 3:14, now it's 4:14. Campobello International Park. All right, cool, made it. After how many miles have I ridden to get up here? Almost 600 miles, 589.8. This is the view from the cottage.
Knitting, we have a basket in the corner, and for every hour it was stamp collecting.
This is the megaphone.
Yes, and it's actually really light. It's made out of parchment paper.
Is that
But I
really?
think the way they painted it. And she chose it because the two rooms are connected by a little closet, so she could still look after him. Here is the model airplane, which was based on the Curtiss Jenny, which was used to train combat pilots for World War I.
This is Friar's Head, and there's an observation deck back here. Still part of the park. I thought the park was going to be just his home and a couple of adjoining buildings, but it's actually quite a large park with nature trails, and I forgot how many hundreds or thousands of acres they said, but it's pretty large. This is the Narrows Road. Takes me back down near the border, where I'll turn around and get back on the main road. Oh, that's a nice lighthouse. Mulholland Point Lighthouse. Camper registration here. Still got the gate open. Okay, so the store here on Campobello Island had very little to eat. That interested me, at least. My dinner is going to be Doritos, banana, some tuna. Late tuna, Diet Coke, and a couple cookies for dessert. Pretty slim pickings, but at least it's something.
This is the beach right next to my campsite.